Hello, I'm going to talk about, this is the first class of the Introduction to Functional Programming. Today is October 1st, 2020. I'm Adolfo Neto. I'm a professor here at the Federal University of Federal, no, it's Federal University of Technology, Paraná, Brazil, here in Curitiba. So it's a long, long name, but sorry. And first, I have to say to you that I'm not the owner of truths, as we say in Portuguese. So you can know more than me about many things. I like that. So don't be afraid to say that I'm wrong, because I may be wrong. And also, I have my passions and pet peeves. So some things I like. For instance, I like Elixir a lot. Some things I don't like. For instance, I don't like type annotations, and I don't like when I have to say that variable x is of type integer. If I can just say x equals to 7, or x receives 7, so that's something that you can disagree with me. It's okay. And once in a while, I maybe tell you to go to this place, but not now. So this is, oh, sorry, this is my personal, because I'm using Zoom so that you can see me, and then you can see my material here, and just a little bit of history. And there is this broad classification that people use. They say, no, there is the declarative languages. These are the languages where you don't instruct the computer how to do something, but you say, I want this, and you describe in a way, and then the computer, how can I say, the computer does what you want it to do. So I'm not going to go too far on that, just a little bit of history. Here, you see that I put some functional programming language. So functional programming languages and logic programming languages, they are declarative languages. They are part of this group of declarative languages. And I would say that the choice that I have made to list some uh, functional programming languages, they are a little bit random, and you understand in a bit why. But let's and I included here the links to the Wikipedia, because I think it's easy for anyone to go there and check. But maybe there is a big maybe here. Maybe Lisp is the first functional programming language. I don't know if there is some authoritative answer that says no, it's Lisp, but we usually think that it is. If you see, if you go to the Wikipedia page, it says that it's a family of programming languages. You see, the first phrase here doesn't even mention functional programming. Only later that it says that is multi-paradigm functional. So I will put it here because it was the first language, the first programming language relatively well known that has something functional in it, but I know it's multi-paradigm. Then there is this language here, it's called ML. No, this one is actually a functional programming language. So maybe it's the first relatively well known. Again, you see, it says here that it was influenced by this other language, but I haven't ever heard about this one. But this language was created by Robin Milner. He already died, but he was very famous, and he won the Turing Award. The Turing Award is like the Nobel Prize for computer scientists. and it's a functional programming language. So there's ML. Scheme is actually a Lisp dialect, but as it has a different name. I included it here. And there is Erlang, which is also it's a functional programming language, but it's also a concurrent programming language. So it's a language that was created to develop concurrent systems. So it's important in the history of Erlang that it was created for concurrent programming, for programming concurrent systems. Besides Erlang, so you see between these four languages here, uh, 25 years from 1958 to 1983. Then 2 years after Erlang came Miranda. Some people love Miranda, and it's also a programming language. But you see now that there is something else here. It says that it's purely functional. So maybe I could say that it's more functional than other programming languages. But if you go to the website, it's not much used. Oh, it's not even the site is broken. Okay, and it's a language that influenced Haskell, which is the next one. So 5 years between Miranda and Haskell. And Haskell, it's also a purely functional programming language. So maybe when we want to describe, to say what exactly is a functional programming language, maybe people should go to Haskell and see a relatively pure and much used programming language, and it's Haskell. It was created by a large group of people. You see here John Hughes, Simon Peyton Jones, Eric Major, and Philip Wadler, people that are relatively well known in the functional programming community. And there is this one also. This one is also a kind of Lisp dialect. See, Racket. This is interesting because it was created for, as far as I can remember, it was created for teaching. So it's Racket is used by the Program by Design outreach program, which aims to turn computer science into an indispensable part of the liberal arts curriculum. So I'm not sure, but I think it was created for teaching, so it has a different focus. And of course, this list here is, I chose this language rather arbitrarily. So the next one is only 12 years later, which is Clojure. Clojure is also a dialect of Lisp, but it's a dialect of Lisp that runs on the Java virtual machine. So this is important because um, by that time, in 2007, Java was already a well-known programming language, and its Java virtual machine was, how can I say, the Java virtual machine was running in several computers all over the world. So the fact that we now have had a Lisp that could run on the Java virtual machine, it's very good. So when I first had contact with Lisp, it was on an MS-DOS machine, so it was not as good as Clojure for distribution. Of course, it's also, I believe it can be run on other platforms, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to say anything about that. And at exactly the same time, in 2007, Idris, also a purely functional programming language, and this one I don't know much about it, but I know that's I have heard about it, but I don't think it's quite famous. And Elixir, which is the programming language that is going to be the main focus of this course here, which is a functional. It's a functional in concurrent like Erlang, and it's no coincidence. It uses the Erlang virtual machine. So Elixir code is compiled to bytecode for the Erlang virtual machine. So it has something in common with lots in common with Erlang. So these are the my choices for the main programming languages in the functional paradigm. There are these two more recent, newer than Elixir, Elm, which compiles to JavaScript, and also PureScript, which also compiles to JavaScript. I believe they compile; they are not interpreted, but I'm not sure. And but the important point here, for instance, PureScript is a purely functional programming language, and Elm is not a purely functional. Ah, no, it's purely functional too. I uh, I really like Twitter, so I asked yesterday. I asked on where's my yes, this is my original tweet. At that time, I had this list, and you see there's a lot of people. This guy, he's a professor at Syracuse University. I believe his name is Christopher Mishinsky, and he likes he suggested Miranda, and Binary Temple said, Elixir is the most modern functional programming language. Maybe. And there is, if you read the comments, and you see that it's not that easy to say that these are functional and these ones are multi-paradigm. Before I go to the logic paradigm, let me explain. There are some languages, there are some programming languages that they have a functional part but also object oriented part. So usually that's what they mean by multi paradigm, when they have functional and object oriented. So for instance, there is a dialect of Lisp called Common Lisp, which has functional and object oriented. So I it's not even here common Lisp, but there is Camo, Scala, Fsharp, Swift, Rust, and Camo. It's a general purpose multi paradigm programming language, which stands Camo, which is a dialect of ML. You see, they started with ML, then Camo, then Objective Camo. What Objective Camo has in addition to Camo is it is the object oriented features. So that's why it's multi-paradigm. Scala. Scala is quite interesting because it seems that it's the initial idea by its creator, Martin Odersky, was to create a programming language that had both object orientation and functional programming features. And like Clojure, it also runs on the Java virtual machine. F sharp, this one was difficult because some people say that it's actually F sharp is actually a quite functional programming language, but because of the virtual machine, which is actually the .NET virtual machine, it has some object-oriented programming features. I'm not sure. I'm not uh, a specialist in Sharp. There is also Swift, also multi-paradigm, and some here. Yes, you can see here it's object-oriented and functional and imperative. And Rust, also multi-paradigm, and also it includes functional here. Let's go back here. So these are, you see, I have shown you some functional, purely functional, and also multi-paradigm, which include functional, and but there is also these all are in the larger group of declarative languages, but there is also logic programming languages. As far as I know, there's only one. Uh, if people talk about functional programming, oh sorry, logic programming language, it's Prolog. So that's, maybe there is some other one, but even Prolog, it's there's not many users. So Prolog was created in 1972, but by a French guy, and I believe it was two French guys, but yes, okay. Here, Alain Komerauer and Philippe Roussel. I believe Alain died. Yes, he died a few years ago. And this other guy, I don't know if he's still alive. And Robert Kowalski, a British guy, is still alive. But this is interesting also because Prolog had a great influence on Erlang. Erlang started as a version of Prolog for concurrent programming. Then Erlang became a programming language. So you see that there is some things in common between these languages. I include the. You see, there is this situation where some languages present themselves not as languages but as dialects, and so it's not easy to categorize. And also there are languages that implemented features from functional programming. Even Java has features from functional programming. So here you see C++, Kotlin, Perl, PHP, Python, Scala. You see Scala, which are included here, it's here too. So it's not easy to categorize. It's actually not that important for us, this categorization, only that we are going to see the main features of these languages. And the I'm going to, these links which I'm going to show you, they're already in this GitHub repository. There are some links. For instance, there is the history of Lisp. Who cares about functional programming? Companies using Elixir, functional programming essentials with Elixir. This is a very good set of slides by Ulisses Oliveira, who wrote a very nice book about functional programming. And you see here declarative programming, immutability, functions, and what else here? Yes, let me just pause a bit. Which one is the latest one? It's this one. Let me just pause a bit what I was showing to discuss what is going to be this course. So there is a syllabus, and I'm going to present the concepts and main languages of functional programming. You see at the time I listed this language here. I don't know if you know, but there is a site called Typo Index, which shows, which it shows, no, it tries to to get from internet, uh, from what it gathers on the internet, which are the most used programming languages. Is that the truth? Probably not, but it's a kind of indicator. So you see Java, Python, C Sharp, C++, C Sharp, Visual Basic, JavaScript. Uh, which one is the first functional language here? No one, right? here, logo, Visual Basic, Scratch, Julia, Scala is multi-paradigm, Scheme. So Scheme is the first one here. And then there is Lua, Brazilian programming language, Prolog. So this is one way to know if these languages are being used in practice. Another one, this is the Stack Overflow developer survey. The, the nice thing about this survey is that they have a lot of respondents. So when they describe the most popular technologies, you see that for these respondents, JavaScript, where is which one is the first functional programming language? There is no one. I'm seeing this for the first time. You see here, Haskell. Haskell is the most popular between all respondents. Now between professional developers, Haskell again. There is this the most loved technologies: Rust, TypeScript, Python, Kotlin. Which one here is functional? Scala, a little bit. Haskell. You see, lots of people like Haskell, actually love. Some people dread. Oh, see, not many people dread. Many people dread Haskell and wanted. It's the people that want only 4.2% of people they want to program in Haskell. And I also like to see this the part of on the salaries, because you see Scala, which is a multi-paradigm functional language. If you are a Scala developer in the US, you can earn as much as you can earn a median. It's not the average; it's median of $150,000 yearly. So this is a yearly salary, which is quite good. Haskell 1 to 1, and these are the only functional. And here in the world, it's 60K for Haskell. Which one was the other one? Scala, Scala. So you see, it's possible if you specialize in this survey was from 2020. In 2019, Elixir appeared there as a with a very good salary, so it varies from year to year. And what else? What are you going to see here? Oh, it's nice that I can change here because it's wrong. It's functions as first class citizens, and we are going to see functions as first class citizens, named anonymous functions, querying modules, pattern matching, data structures, immutability. Oh, again, sorry, it's recursion. There's no S here. Recursion, collection processing, lazy evaluation, control flow. And I'm going to ask you to implement projects using a functional programming language. And I'm going to give you a general view of concurrent functional programming language, Elixir and Erlang. So let's go back to here. So this one I have already shown you. And functions as first class citizens. What does it mean? So first, I have to show you what are functions in mathematics and in programming, which is different. These are different concepts in these two uh, knowledge areas. So I'm going to show you a little bit how I see what's a function in mathematics. So in mathematics, math, mathematics is difficult to say for me. In math, you have the concept of set. What is a set? A set is, for instance, let's get, if I have the set A, which contains three elements, A, B, C. A set in math can have 0 elements, 1 element, 2 elements, 3 elements, infinite elements. So I have the set A and the set B. 1, 2, 4, 6. So now we have two sets, A and B. I'm going to draw them here because it will be useful. So let me put here A, B, C. This is the set capital A, and B is 1, 2, 4, 6. So if I say that I have a function f from A to B, what does it mean? Let me choose a different color. It means that for every element of A, I can associate it to one and exactly one element of B. For instance, for this f of A is 1, f of B is 4, and f of C is 2. You see, 6 is alone here. That's okay. I can have, if it's on the right side here, it's okay. It can be associated to no one here. But if I had, if C was not associated to 2 or to 6 or 21, then it wouldn't be a function. In order to be a function, I have to associate every element of the uh, domain set. We say that this is the domain. Oh, sorry, domain and image. Every element of the domain is associated to the image, but not every element of the image is associated to an element of A. It's the destination of this association. So this is the basic idea of functions, but this is interesting because, for instance, there is this function in mathematics that's and let's say that this function is from the set of natural numbers to the set of natural numbers. F of 0, which is the f of 0? There is no natural number which is equal to 1 over 0. So this is not a function, right? Not a mathematical function. So that's the question here. We have a mathematical definition of function that even for some things that are quite usual for us in our day-to-day, you don't use it. So in computer science, uh, it happens too. So I'm sorry, I have to include here, new page after. It's here. So in computer science, we have a rather, it's a more flexible definition of what a function means. I I don't have the time and to explain to you concepts such as computable or non-computable functions. It's not part of this course, and but you can have some the in some programming languages a function. You can have something like this in some programming languages. See, let now it's 2:32 p.m. and let's see. Let's say if I ask the computer to calculate the result of this function f with with a on 2:32 p.m., the result is b. 1 minute later, I ask again for the same input. Oh, and now it's c. This is a function for programming people. It's okay. Some people say this is a function. So it's not a big problem. But the main question here is that when we are talking about functional programming languages, our functions are more like math functions. When we give the same input, it returns the same output. So that's the basic concept here. The same input, the same output ever. It doesn't change in a different time, in a different configuration. So I believe this is going to become more clear when you present. But do you remember that thing about purely functional? So the question is that some language, even Elixir, some functions, even Erlang, some functions that we call this is a function, then but they don't respect this. They have for the same function, and they give different results at different times. So this is the first thing. So our functions in functional programming language, the functions are more like mathematical functions. And so I have presented this here. And the first idea that I think it's also important for, I see that most of you have some background in programming. Usually in most programming languages, you can define a function, but you cannot, you can define a function. The function can receive many arguments. For instance, in our example here, a is an argument, here, and sorry, here, a, b, and c are arguments. 1, 4, 2 is the result. And most programming languages, you can have, for instance, I can say, oh, f of x is x plus 2. But I cannot say, oh, there is a function g that receives y and do something. For instance, this is a function that receives x and returns x plus 2. And this is a function that receives y and applies that y to 3. So in this case, g of f would get f and apply to 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. So you see this, I have passed a function as a parameter. So most programming languages do not allow this. So this is the basic idea of a function as a first class citizen. In most functional programming languages, I believe in all functional programming languages, you can define a function, you can pass it as a parameter, you can return a function from when you apply a function. So that's the basic idea. Something that so I'm going to explore these concepts a little bit more. Something I want to show to you is that there is a lot of research on this. Is this course is part of a master's course. So there is this journal of functional programming. So there is very advanced content on functional programming. We are not going to go there because this is an introduction course. This is a point. This is interesting as an example because this is a functional library. I had told you about the idea that languages implemented features from functional programming. This is an example. I believe these guys they have uh, you can use functional programming with JavaScript. There is no example here, but okay. Let's go back. So what I want to show you now as the last part of this class is that the 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 language, the functional programming language, which is not pure that I like to use, is Elixir. Why Elixir? Well, because it was created by a Brazilian, José Valim. I like its syntax, and basically that's it. It's good for concurrent programming, which is something that can be very useful nowadays. I don't have many explanations for this. I believe most people that teach functional programming, they choose Haskell, but I like Elixir, so that's why I'm going to use Elixir. So I'm going to give a brief introduction to Elixir. So first thing, I have already installed Elixir here, and I call the IX, which is Interactive Elixir. I'm using version 1.10.4, and I'm going to show you the basic types. Let me show one resource which I think is very useful. It's called Elixir School. And Elixir School, you can you see this one is in Portuguese. It's available in several languages. And for instance, when they show here the basics, they say, these are I don't want to show you how to implement it. Oh, sorry, to install it. The basic data types: integer, integers, floats, booleans, atoms, strings. So later you study here, but it's the basic. This is an integer number. This is a floating point number. What's the other one? Booleans. Booleans are like this: true and false. Atoms are, for instance, age, name, and strings. My name, Adolf. So these are the three basic types. Why do I want to show this? Because this is only the start, right? So let me clear here. When you open the interactive Elixir, you have already a lot of functions available for you. For instance, let me include here a string called Adolfo. You see, this is a function, capitalize. This is the module where this function is. What's a module? A module is a set of related functions. This is a module, so I put the name of the module dot the name of the function, parentheses, a string, parentheses. Elixir, in most cases, the parentheses are optional. And you see what it has done. It just capitalized the first letter. If it was A B. I didn't know it actually it's quite useful, right? If it's all capital letters, it just leaves the first letter capitalized. How do I know what it does? I can do here on interactive Elixir age string capitalize, and it has a help for me explaining what the function does. Okay, I believe that's for the first part of this class is over. I'm going just to end this broadcast, and we are going to talk a little bit in Portuguese. Okay, bye bye, people who are watching this video.